Friends, in the last discussion, I said as the last point that judge the interviewer. What a risky proposition it is. I am suggesting that you judge the interviewers when you are at the receiving end. You are going for the interview when they are supposed to judge you and you are going to judge them. But here the judgment is of different kind. And it's a very vital thing in the interview. Very few people understand this or even experiment with it. You know, when you go for the interview, the moment you enter, how you are received, how you are welcomed, who offers you the seat, how do you sit, who shoots the first question, who is the next, who concludes the question, who gives you the lead. You know, there are several things which will happen, and I can assure you they are not pre-planned. During each interview, means each candidate's interview, the whole drama starts afresh. Only the interviewer are common. Candidate is another one, next player, next player. Every time the interview starts and then it rolls in a direction depending on question shot and how the candidate answers. It is also not necessary that the sequence of questioning or sequence of the interviewer's questioning will remain the same. No, it's not necessary that it's always the chairman who will ask the question. Not necessary. It's not necessary that the chairman will conclude the interview. No, every individual interview is a fresh play. But it is very vital and very tricky thing if you could judge the interviewer. You know, basically what I mean here is, since they are all experts, they also have a different kind of manifestation. It may be a drama or it may be intrinsic. Individual experts going to manifest during that particular half an hour to 1 hour interview in a certain manner. Individual person will manifest in a certain manner. It may be guided by their own intrinsic characteristics or it may be a drama. It may be a game plan. So, here let me give you certain clues that how to judge the interviewer. Why I am saying it's very tricky. See, you are judging the interviewer, at the same time you are listening to the questions and also trying to answer their questions. It's not easy. It's a very, very tough thing. In fact, I consider that giving an interview is much more tough than taking an interview. So, every time when you give an interview, you are always, in a situation when you are fighting against your own will. It's because of which the candidate who gives interviews after interviews, they have the fatigue. Let's think about or look at the categories of interviewer. These categories, some I have learned from various researches and some from my own personal experiences, because as I told you before that I have taken lots of interviews and I watch. When I am fielding question, I am one of the interviewer, but when others are fielding questions, I also watch them. So, I could categorize them in a certain category, but necessarily this is not the exact definition of individuals. And moreover, each expert is rich in their own knowledge and experience. So, when I am trying to categorize them, there is no meanness involved in it. If you could judge, just see anyone who has given an interview, if you could recollect how did you face the interview, who asked questions and all, you will find that they can be categorized into these kind. One is a professional interviewer. I will come to this in detail. There is a kind of interviewer who is professional interviewer. There is another kind of interviewer, another category, who can be called as a programmer, the programmer. There is another one who can be categorized as a professor. When I will elaborate this in my next discussions, then you will realize that how do they differ from one another. So, professional interviewer, then programmer, and then professor. Then there are certain interviewer who can be categorized as friend. Then there is another who are dreamer, another who are braggarts, who brags, another who are skeptical, another one who are persecutor, and the last one, the harassed. If you look into these categories of interviewer and try to recollect your past interviews, whether selected or not selected, you will find that you would find at least one of them to be there. Professional interviewer, programmer, professor, friend, dreamer, braggart, skeptical, persecutor, and harassed. Now, let us go into the detail of them. Who can be categorized as a professional interviewer? You know, the professional interviewers are the person who are taking interviews very frequently. They are a set identified by the company who are sent to all the colleges or any other places, different cities, to take interviews. And by taking repeated interviews, they become a professional interviewer. They know what question to be asked. They know what question need not be asked. They know what is the purpose of this particular interview. They know what is the target of the company while selecting a candidate. They become so much professional that they are always well prepared. So, they always have a checklist of questions which in any way they will ask. So, professional interviewer, well prepared. You can make out if you had been really watching the interviewer during an interview. I don't expect that you will be watching them so carefully, because already you are mentally tensed and you don't want to lose an opportunity of answering right questions. So, you really don't pay much attention to the interviewer. But my suggestion is, friends, if you could spend split seconds in judging these interviewers when they are asking questions, you know, these categories of or the characteristics of the interviewer will emerge out, you know. You can judge it. You will go through this repeatedly when I will be floating this. Well prepared, positive. You know, they know business. They know that they have come here to take the interview, not for wasting their time, because their time is also equally valuable. Your time is also valuable. They know that they have called you for interview, and they know their time they are going to spend very, very positively. So, they will not, you know, beat around the bush in questions. They don't have free time. They are very professional. So, well prepared and positive, very methodical. The questions that they will ask, first question, then the second question, then the third question, then the fourth question, and there may be some question which can be categorized as the last question. Quite often, I will give some examples. Okay, when I am talking about these interviewers, it can so happen that you are facing an interview in which only there is a sole interviewer. That means a person is asking you questions, one interviewer only. So, it is 1-to-1. In such cases, you will find the professional interviewer will be, you know, he will play a role of various positive things and keep on asking you questions for which he is ready to, you know, he basically looks for those answers. Something like very common questions are something like, you know, what is your expectation? What is the expectation of your compensation? Very standard question. The professional interviewer will definitely ask you this question. If you are a lady candidate, if you are a married candidate, married lady candidate, the definite question will come how you are thinking about your locational changes in case you are selected. What is your comfort level in getting transfers from one place to another? These are very standard questions and quite valid questions. It is just to help you to give your opinion that how do you really want to respond to this. Very standard questions. So, the professional interviewer will be very methodical in such questions. The professional interviewer will ask you, what was your last pay? They will ask you. it can so happen if there are more than one interviewer, there may be technical experts, but the professional interviewer is the common one. They may be selecting the technical experts depending on the candidates or the kind of positions for which they are interviewing. But the professional interviewer is a person who will always be common in all, and they will tie the thread and find out that actually the crux of the whole interview results. So they are very ready with strong paperwork. So if you find the moment you enter, you look at, how do you do it? Let me give you some clue. When I'm talking about them, I should also give you some clue. When you enter the interview room, with all the kinds, the poise, dignity and all that I'll discuss later again in terms of do's and don'ts. But when you are sitting and waiting for questions, the first thing what you do is you give, a look at everybody. You simply don't look at the chairman who is sitting in front and don't look at others. Basically what you do is with your soft smile, very soft smile, you look at everybody. So have a glance, and it may so happen that you might find that one of the interviewers is known to you, and you know that this person is very helpful and you feel comfortable. And maybe again you might find that one of the interviewers who was really not that good to you during your last interview, doesn't matter. I said don't go for character assassinations. So okay, but you know that who are there. I have heard during my return flights, in one case there was a candidate sitting next to me, not talking to me but calling somebody else when the flight was about to take off, and the candidate was reporting to the family saying that okay, the persons were these. So the person named all the interviewer. That means I understood that for a position the candidate had gone for the interview, all the experts were known to that candidate. At least the candidate could identify those experts. Happens, it's there. It's not a blind interview, I'll tell you, not every time. In today's context, when the people are knowing each other very well through academics and through workshops and through conferences, it's quite likely that you'll be knowing your interviewer. You get a chance to know your interviewer before you know that they would be interviewing you sometime in future. So the point is, you look at everybody. If you find that the interviewer is sitting like, all over around this, you have a quick glance at everybody with a smile. You don't have to do individual like good morning, good morning, good morning. Don't do it. It's very stupid. Don't do it. You just have a glance with a smile. That's all. Once you do that, then immediately you'll be able to locate that there's somebody who has the entire file of yours. The rest are not having files. They have a piece of paper and a pen. The moment you find that the person who has the file with him, you should be able to judge that that person is one of the interviewers who is keeping all records of yours. So he has a strong paperwork. So now again, so the professional interviewer are always good. They mean business. They will select you if you are good. They will not select you if you are not good. But at least they are very prepared in terms of interview. They know what questions to be asked. But the other interviewers, I cannot guarantee that they will be asking questions very well prepared. No. So here, most often the professional interviewers are very positive and very methodical with strong paperwork. There is another type, programmer, a kind of interviewer who is very precise. His questions are very precise. He is sitting quietly. He will be only asking questions once he is invited to ask the questions. That means in the whole interview board, let's consider that there are 6 experts sitting, of which one of the person is the chairperson. Okay? Now chairperson initiates the interview, and then first few pleasantries, some welcome addresses, then they will immediately ask you, could you in nutshell or very briefly introduce yourself. You should be in a position to introduce yourself in such a manner that everybody knows about you briefly, but never go on history. Never go on saying, I have done this, I have done this, I have done this, then I studied here, then I worked there. Don't make it a history. It is a brief introduction of yours, in which then the question may be, why do you want to join us? So there are many such questions. In one of my another lecture, I will give you such hints that what are the very common questions that they are asked in the interview, but not in this. I will not talk in this. Here the programmer is going to ask you a question when he is being invited. Okay, Mr. So-and-so, now can you ask a question? Then he will start. Very precise question. Quite often I have found that there are some interviewers, he wants to know this much, he will ask a long question, and then you realize that it's not a question, it's a statement, and you don't know really what could be the answer. And don't worry, everybody else in that particular interview board is also having the same opinion as you do have, that this person is not really asking a question, making a statement. He makes a statement, and then the last one is, what is your opinion about it? That's the kind of question you get. Blah, 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 and then finally, what's your opinion about it? It's a very open-ended question, but it's not precise. Okay? But the programmer will have a precise question. He will ask the question very pinpointed, and you also should give pinpointed answer. Okay? So they are very precise, very calculative. If you answer rightly the first one, then he will ask you a second question to ensure that you really know the fundamentals or the backgrounds or such things more than what you have answered now. Okay? He will be very calculative. Is very sure about what he wants and what he doesn't want. If suppose they are asking for a particular expert to be selected out of say 10 candidates, and he knows that the candidate must have that special skill for which he will be selected, then he knows, and then he is very, very definitely asking questions related to that to be sure that you are the right candidate. So here the programmer, you should be able to judge. If somebody is asking very pinpointed questions, then you can classify him or categorize him as a programmer. Then there is a third category, who we can call them as professor. Why professor? See, not necessarily he has to be holding a position of a professor, but it's a category of professor. That means he is a very knowledgeable person, very, very knowledgeable person. In such cases, what happens is he appears to be Dr. Know-all. He will ask you questions to give you a hint that how knowledgeable he is. See, I am not saying good or bad. I am saying this is what will happen. The person who can be categorized as a professor interviewer, he will ask you questions to give you a hint that I am so much knowledgeable about it. Okay? Then if you are knowledgeable and if you have answered him right, you will get an appreciation straight. Yes, very correct, very true. That's the kind of response the interview will give. But he will definitely try to give an impression to you that he is Dr. Know-all. He knows almost everything. And then he can also offer suggestions during the interview. If your answer is not proper, then he can offer suggestions. Yes, you are right, but actually if you do this, then it will now mean this. So he will keep on elaborating and offer suggestions. It's good for you, but I don't know whether it will be good for your selection. Because it may so happen that after giving you lots of suggestions, then he will tell the interview board, he did not know the answer. I had to give him the answer. So you don't take it for granted that if he is offering suggestion, but this is a category of interviewer who offers suggestions. And then this person will end with an advice for improvement. Something like, after the entire interview is almost over, then he will say, I have another question. He will say, look, the point is that we are looking for this kind of candidate who should be able to solve these problems, and you are good, your qualification is good, but only thing is like I think that you get a little more trained. He will end with an advice for improvement. If you see such kind of interviewer, then you can categorize them as a professor. So he does not mean any negative. Here the good thing is, for all these three I have talked about, the professional interviewer is very methodical and not going to waste his time or your time, number one. The programmer one is trying to find out exactly the right candidate, whether sitting in front or not. Okay? Very positive. The third one, the professor, is also very positive. You might not be selected this time, but at least you know what you have to improve upon. So these are very, very positive. Then there is another, which is friend. This kind of interviewer who are very open, he will ask you a question like a friend, as if, there may be sometime this kind of interviewer, what they do is, if somebody finds, if you are found to be very tensed, he will say, relax, relax, don't have tension. We are asking you questions to know more about your knowledge. Relax. If you want, you can take a glass of water. Okay, now you answer this question. He will behave very friendly, very, very friendly, and that's very positive. It's good. It makes the candidate very comforted. It is very good. Not all the interviewers are friendly. So he is very open. If suppose you have answered, and if the answer is partially correct or near to the correct, then he will be also open to this. He will also say, okay, that's fine, but the thing is, can you tell me something more? That means he is giving you an opportunity to elaborate more. Very positive. Okay. And he will do everything very casually. He himself will not look tensed. When you see the interviewer, some interviewers are very, very rigidly looking. Some interviewers are very soft looking. When I talked about the eyes, the interviewers also have the eye movements which vary. Some interviewers will have a dilated eyes, gives a soft look. Some interviewer will have a constricted eyes, gives a very tough look or rigid look. So these things happen. All these things I have talked about your body languages. The body languages can be now mapped onto the interviewer as well. But since I am not focusing on that, I am only focusing on you as a interviewee, a candidate. So my discussion is always around a candidate. So here the interviewer is very friendly, is very open to your answers, gives you certain clue as well to get more correct answers, and very casual. They are not that methodical. And there is a very distinct difference between the friendly and the programmer and the such kind of interviewers, professional interviewers. The friendly interviewer is generally are invited based on their experience, expertise, okay, and he really doesn't bother whether you are selected or not. But the professional interviewer is very concerned whether you are selected or not, because if suppose 10 candidates have been called and he has a mandate of selecting at least 2 candidates, he will make sure that 2 candidates he gets is the best of the lot. Okay. The friendly interviewer is only to check whether you know or you don't know. Maybe that he will give an input saying, okay, it's good, but needs more improvement. But the professor interviewer, he is going to give you clue and also give you a hint. And if you ever get a hint that I think you should have 1 more year of experience, if you find a person is saying at the end of almost near the end of the interview that, gentlemen, I think you are good, means you are good in this, that, and all that, but I think you should have 1 more year of experience, and then it would have been very good for us. Take it for granted that you are not selected, because he gave you a hint. He gave you a hint for improvement. Okay. The next one is dreamer. This is a very interesting category. You can make out the dreamers. In the whole interview board, see, the thing is, during that half an hour, your eyes will be roving. You might find that there is a person who is sitting like this or sitting like this, all through. He is listening to others' questions, looking at you when you are answering, and sometimes you will find, if you really have a quick glance and you find that his eyes are not towards you, is somewhere in the ceiling, treat him as a dreamer. Or if you find that somebody who is sitting like this in the interview and looking at you, treat it as dreamer. What is a dreamer? Dreamer is a category who speaks very little, and given an opportunity, he will not ask a question. He will give you a pass. Sometimes what happens is the chairman says, okay, Mr. Gentleman, do you have any question? No, it's okay. That means he gave you a pass. He never asked you a question because he is really not serious. This is the category which is you can't help it. There are so many such kind of categories. The dreamer speaks very little, appears distracted, as if there is a distraction in the mind. That means he is here but not here. He is physically here but mentally not here. He didn't really wanted to be here, but he had to be here by protocol. That is a kind of dreamer, and pays least attention to the whole process. and that's why he could give a pass. Okay, it's the dreamer. Then the next one. See, so far I've talked about the categories who are positive. Good. The other categories I talked about, they are also experts, mind it. They are no way less in any qualifications or experiences or expertise, no way. But somehow the characteristics are a little different from the others whom I have talked about. The braggart. Braggart is a kind of interviewer who will always, while asking questions, give you sufficient hint that he knows so much, he has been to so many places, and try to prove to you that you are no one almost, and he has lots of achievements. In this kind of cases, what happens is the braggart kind of interviewer will keep on asking questions after questions, and within that question he'll keep on giving hints. It's something like if somebody, have you seen Eiffel Tower? A question. You are being an architect, you are being selected. Have you seen Eiffel Tower? You'll say, I've seen in the picture. Yeah, in fact, when I was in Paris, when I visited the Eiffel Tower, he'll start telling his own story to give an idea that he was in Paris. Somebody will speak something like this, I have some stints of, other foreign universities, and what I've seen over there is this. What is your opinion about this? The question is, what is your opinion about that? But he gave you a sufficient amount of information that he had a stint of, or say stints of certain visits to different universities, whether for conferences or for workshops or for appointments. Okay, so braggart are the people who will always talk about themselves and make sure in the whole interview set that everybody almost gets noted that he's achieved more than others. So this is the kind of category, not bad, but the thing is you have to be very responsive to it. So they will brag about their own achievements, they will brag about their own knowledge, their experience, and they will always project their self-worth. The objective of this interview is to select you, ask you questions, to know about you, but this kind of category of interviewer will ask you lots of questions, but projecting the self-worth. And if it is one-to-one, that means you have gone for an interview where the interviewer is a braggart, then you can always take it for granted that each interview is going to be long, and in which your portion of answering is going to be shorter, and the interviewer's portion of speaking is going to be longer. But okay, this is another type. Another category is skeptic. The skeptic kind of interviewer, they'll be sitting there, they'll be watching you all through, and with a kind of frown in the forehead. You remember I've talked about this, the eyebrows will be up, they'll be having a frown. They will generally, any answer that you give, they will not trust your answer very easily. So they'll ask you another question. If you answer that well, he will ask you another question. Another question. That means the skeptic person wants to be very sure that you have answered the right questions very rightly. And what is that very rightly? Which matches his expected answer. Till that time, he will be asking you questions over questions over questions, because he is always skeptic that are you answering this by fluke or are you answering from your knowledge? Okay? They will never trust your answer fully, so they will ask question over questions. They are the persons, you can make out who is the skeptic one. Sometime you must have found that there will be an interviewer who will be looking like this. The specs will be down here and they will be looking like this. The head down, the specs here, and the eyes at this. They will always, have this kind of nature. Either not trusting, have somebody who will have, this can be because of the plus power spectacles, no problem. But the thing is, looking like this is not a very good gesture, but you can make out that this person is a kind of skeptic person. So he will be asking questions. I have to field it very carefully. So their eyebrows can be up, very, very up, and there can be frowns on the head. See, I'm talking about the body languages. So when I'm talking about the body languages which you have to adhere to or imbibe, you also have to judge the others based on others' body language. Okay? And this kind of skeptic interviewer, they always end up with a kind of doubt about the candidate. So what happens is, see, in the interview board, when the chairman asks everybody's opinion, this skeptic person will say, well, the candidate is not bad. Of course, he could answer his question, but he could not answer my question. And I think he should have a little more experience. I don't think that he will be a very good addition. That means he is giving a doubtful analysis about you. This is a kind of interviewer has to be handled very carefully by the chairperson, because chairperson, if he is a professional interviewer, he knows what is to be taken. So he will definitely listen to and take note of the observation of all the experts, but he has to judge that who is the right candidate then. And the next type is the persecutor. This is a kind which is, I have found some of these kinds of interviewer. In case you answer wrongly, immediately they will verge upon you. What are you talking about? You don't know this. That's a kind of reaction. There was no necessity. What happens is you have been asked a question and you have given your answer. Answer is wrong. Fine. You could have been told, no, I don't agree to you. Your answer is wrong. But the person will start with, what are you talking about? You don't know this. This is a very fundamental. What have you learnt in your college? What your professor have taught you? Verging on your wrong answer. They are the persecutor. They will keep on, hammering you because they get pleasure out of it. And there are two things. One is the pleasure of knowing that he knows more than you, and the pleasure that you don't know. That's another. Okay. So these kind of interviewer, they whips at the candidate. They say, no, you should not be selected, and you should not have applied for this. These are the kind of reactions they give. These kind of interviewer, it's the choice of the company that whom they will select as the interviewer. I have no opinion on this. Neither I want to give any opinion on this. But point is, there are this kind of interviewer. And the last kind is the one whom we can categorize them as a harassed one. What is this harassed one? The harassed kind of interviewer is who is most unprepared. But then immediately the question comes, then why he is there in the interview board? He may be there in the interview board by protocol, that he has to be there. And every time he is being called, because by protocol he has to be there, but he doesn't want to be there in the interview board. So internally he feels harassed that, okay, what is this? I am wasting my time. I have to take interview of 10 candidates. And this I know that the candidates will be good. They could have been otherwise selected as well. Internally he will be always saying something to himself. They are harassed kind, okay, and they are most unprepared. When there is one extreme is the professional interviewer, who becomes very professionally, and programmer who are very professionally organized. This kind of interviewer are most unprepared. Not only unprepared, they are unorganized in the question also, because I have seen some people sitting in the interview. When he is asked, gentlemen, can you ask a question? He will say, okay, let others ask, I will ask later. Immediately when I look at his table, I find that there is a small piece of paper on which he is now writing his questions, what he has to ask. It simply indicates that he was not prepared. He is now preparing himself. That means this is the kind whom he is not good for the interview board as such, I consider, but okay, they are there. Because when somebody has to be there by protocol and against the will of his presence, but he also plays a very important role, who can say yes or no against or in favor or against you. So they are also equally important, but okay, they are unorganized. So their questions are very unstructured. Suddenly a question will be shot, and he also may not be very sure about what answer he is expecting out of that, and he is also not very sure that why did he ask this question. Does it really mean anything for this particular position? Should you be really knowing this? So they are the harassed kind, okay? And these kind of people are never happy. They are never happy because they are being forced to sit in the interview. Now see, I am summarizing it. If these are the different kind of 9 kinds categories of interviewer I have said, I can assure you that when you enter the interview board, you won't be able to judge everybody every time. But if you really analyze them mentally at least take preparation for responding to this kind of people. I'll tell you one thing very categorically. If in your interview board there are 9 categories, I said, in your interview board there are 9 such people, 9 such interviewers sitting, all these types, each one is equally responsible for your selection or rejection. So never underplay. You try to judge based on the question that what is the category. You don't have to really counter them. You have to respond them very positively so that beyond this situation you are being considered as one of the good candidate worthy of selection. Why this category of interviewers are important to understand? Because sometimes we are caught unaware. You didn't expect it. What happens is, hadn't you been given repeated interviews, you will not have an idea that how to field an answer to a question shot at you. So when read this different categories over and over again, make your own strategy. I'm not going to tell you how you are going to respond to each one of them. No, I don't want to do it. Every individual, based on your soft skill, the soft skill set which I have discussed so far, you can judge how you are going to respond to these interviewers. If there's a programmer, he wants specific answer, give specific answer. If there is a professional interviewer who is very clear about the protocols and records and all that, be clear about your records, all your papers. And in case nobody has asked to see your papers, you should always ask at the end that I have got all the papers that I have been asked to bring. Would you like to see that? And if they find that you are a good candidate, then they will say, no, we don't need to see that. Or else they will say that, yes, we would like to see that. You go to the office and get your all certificates and testimonials verified. Okay? This is how the whole interview game goes on. It's just like a play, as I said. There are so many characters playing different kind of roles, and you are another one who is at the receiving end. Now the whole play has to be enacted by each one of them. Now the example that I have given, if there are 9 such categories of interviewer and you are the candidate, so there is a play of 10 actors in it. So you should then learn how to play in such kind of situations, and this is where your soft skills is going to help. Your body languages, your verbal communication, all these things will keep on playing role. So my friend, up to so much what I have discussed, read them repeatedly and don't be judgmental. Try to see that how you are going to respond to this situation, because every time when you are going to go for an interview, you are going with the purpose of your winning that job. Okay? All the best. Let's see how you take this forward. The rest of the points I'll discuss in the next lecture. Thank you.